Hey kids, it's Bobo here, and you're listening to the wildest, most far out, wiggling podcast, Anime Egotists. We love you, beauty.
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where nobody would make Scooby snacks based off of us.
I don't know. I have Alex Foster snacks. I just don't give them to you
Why not?
because the monster keeps eating them.
That's fair enough. I was about to say, they make me more likable. You'd think you'd be stocking up on those.
Yeah, I can only make enough to keep him from eating me, so.
That's more than fair. That's more than fair. Anyways, my name's Alex, and personally, when it comes to anime, I think it's okay.
Well, I really like it, so. And I'm Richard.
That is correct. Now, when it comes to anime, there are a lot of characters. Whether we love them, hate them, or whether we like them and we're not really sure why, there are a lot of characters. Especially characters that we can relate to.
Exactly.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, so we kind of dove into our own psyches over the last day or so and came up with characters that we know that we feel have kind of a representation of us.
That is correct. Now, this isn't just simply, the funniest characters or the coolest characters, because if you guys know this by now, none of us are either of those things. But these are the characters that we feel like just best represent us emotionally and just everything. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a weird episode. We're going to jump into each other's psyches, and it's not going to go great.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's a lot of dark places in here that don't like to come into the light.
Yeah, but feel free to let us know what anime characters you feel represent you.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to start us off?
I can. So this is one that it took me a little while to think of, but once I did, I'm like, oh my god, I have a good connection, and that's Chrome from Doctor Stone. He starts out as what's called the village wizard or village magician. I can't remember which, for the little native village of the kids who survived from the people who were on the International Space Station who weren't turned to stone. But in all reality, he's pretty much the smartest person there at that point. I'm not saying I'm the smartest. I'm specifically talking about once he discovers Dr. Stone, or I forgot his name. I can't remember now, but the main character, he kind of becomes he realizes there's so much for me to learn, and that's very much myself. I may not be the smartest, but I love to learn. I love to grow, and every time I can, I try to learn something new. So
I guarantee you're the smartest person on this podcast.
I don't know. It depends on the topic, I think. If it came to wrestling, you're way smarter than me on anything wrestling.
I'm not sure that's worth a whole lot, but sure, why not?
As I said, that's just the first topic that comes to mind. I'm sure there's plenty more than that.
Maybe we'll talk about that more.
But he always wants to grow. He always wants to be better once he actually discovers that there's so much more to learn. So I really feel that part of it really embraces me and is the same. I really love to learn and try to memorize everything I can, reuse it whenever I can.
Yeah, I noticed your memory with stuff like that is actually very good, so I can kind of see that. Especially since there were times in college where you would be working on an assignment and you'd be like, "Hey, can you fill this out for me while you're like relaxing and like not do and like sitting on your ass doing nothing?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." Or if it helps you out, and I would just be like, "I don't know what any of this is, but I will try."
I vaguely remember that. I know it was some sort of not petition, survey we had to do for one of my classes.
Yeah, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm like, let me just answer this as honestly as possible.
All right, but yeah, that's kind of where my mindset for Chrome came from. And I have the arrogance every so often that I am the smartest person in the room, but I try not to. I know he had that at the start of the series, so.
Can you try that again? You cut out for a brief second.
Oh, okay. Well, Chrome starts out as the very much viewing himself as the smartest person in the room until he meets the main character. And I may have aspects of my personality where I feel that way. I really try to not be that way, but and try to accept and learn from every person I can, because I know every person may have experiences that I don't and know how to do stuff. So,
Yeah, I can understand that. I don't know the show that well, but it definitely does sound like you from the years I've been stuck with you.
all right. But your first one?
You say Fudo from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds.
Okay.
In all honesty, one of the things about, as much as I kind of hate to say it, Yusei doesn't grow that much over the course of the series, but I guess one of the aspects of him is kind of just he puts a lot of pressure on himself, and sadly, I've been known to do that. It's not always fun, but it's just something I've been kind of stuck with. At the same time, though, he's willing to help people, he's willing to listen, and there are a lot of times where people think, "Oh man, is he like he seems kind of angry a lot?" Like, no, that's just him. Just because somebody's not smiling all the time doesn't necessarily mean anything's wrong with them. Sometimes it's just the person they are. And every now and then he does kind of have a moment where he teases his friends about something, like Jack, like their adopted mother or Martha. She talked to Jack and said, "Oh, Jack, it's so good to see you. Why don't you do that little Prince routine you used to do as a kid?" And Jack starts freaking out, and Yusei just starts laughing about it. But in all honesty, he finds a way to try and help his friends as the best way he can. And also, just it's just a matter for me, especially, he's always finding new ways of getting better and finding the value of something.
I can see that in you. I know you've always been one to step up, and whenever someone mentions having a hard time or needing something, you're always one that seems to step up and want to help if need be there to listen and all of that. You may still make fun of them, but it's always in a playful way, and never, and you would listen and give good advice.
Yeah. Also, when we play Grand Theft Auto, I'm usually always on a motorcycle.
Well, it's your girlfriend, so
Well, yeah, obviously. Not to mention, in like as cool and calm as Yusei seems to be, he his like I guess his mom Martha at one point said, "Well, once you save Akiza, you two can go out on a date." And as cool as he is, he starts freaking out like, what? What do you talk?" And that's how I react when people talk to me about it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I've got other things I want to do right now. I'm
And then one of the characters says, "Well, Martha, he already has a girlfriend, his runner." I'm like, "Oh, that's where little Karibo got that joke. That explains it."
okay. But yeah, as I said, I could see that in you. You've done when you mentioned like being hard on yourself. I've never seen you act that way, but I don't know. You hit it. If you did, you hit it very well when we were in college.
And that's kind of what Yusei does. And every now and then it would slip out, but then somebody would be there to be like, "Hey, you're being too hard on yourself. This wasn't even really your fault." So, like the good and bad parts of Yusei, I feel like it kind of sums me up.
All right. So my next one,
Go for it.
I guess I'll go with the character I picked out for from Yu-Gi-Oh as well. I picked Joey Wheeler when it comes to being with my friends. I'm definitely not the best at a lot of the stuff we do. I'm constantly thinking of like all the times we played video games. I don't think I ever actually won anything,
Maybe a couple of
but
times, but I feel like I blocked it out. I was too upset.
well, that was because Nathan kept running around and knifing everybody in gun game.
And he wonders why he's not allowed back on this show.
But in all honesty, just his loyalty specifically to his friends. I love all of y'all so much. I mean, y'all made college so much fun. So that's kind of where I got Joey from, is that he would pretty much do anything, and I would do anything for y'all. If y'all needed anything, if it within my power, I would happily do it.
Yeah, I mean, the one kind of thing that I like, that is right. The loyalty, you also love the red eyes, just a lot of other stuff. That being said, and I can't, personality wise, in terms of Joey's sillier moments, that's kind of where I feel a disconnect in some areas.
Yeah, that part may not necessarily be me. I thought about Jaden Yuki, because we always joke that I was that character, but he has a lot more silly moments as even as a protagonist, and I know he has a very dark turn, which if I saw season 3, I might know if that fit me, but I just don't know. So that's why I went with Joey, because he's one of the characters I know from the series the best.
I was about to, I feel like that in that regard, I kind of feel like there are other characters you could be from Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's once again, it's a case of you don't know them as well, so you couldn't necessarily be able to sign on. But I do understand that. And I have woken up times and heard you talk in a Brooklyn accent, so that definitely does kind of help your favor.
Well, yeah, it was in a dream and I was walking there.
Took me a good second to get that, but see, that's what I mean. You're the smart one between the two of us. But yeah, the loyalty of Joey and the Godfather of Games.
All right, but your next one.
All right, my next one. I can co-sign with Joey. My next character, Hidenori Tabata from Daily Lives of High School Boys.
Okay, again, I don't know this show well enough, so you'll have to kind of describe it.
All right. Hidenori, it's weird because he's not necessarily the leader of the trio, but they kind of turned him into the leader down the line because the actual main character himself stops getting screen time, and they even point that out. But in all honesty, he's just a silly, goofy person who deep down he does want to understand the people around him. Not in a necessarily super dark or depressing way, but there are times he looks around like, I'm fascinated by the people around me and I notice stuff about them. For example, I noticed when we were in college, whenever you brushed your teeth, you would walk around doing it. And I'm like, why is he doing that? I don't understand it. Only to where the point of I start doing that now, I'm like, oh, damn it, I'm being Richard.
Uh, but when you mentioned kind of the leadership, I can see that because I remember there were times when I think it was a few of the times we went on the wrestling events down in Florida. It's like, okay, what are we doing for food? And we just turn to you and you make a final decision for us like every single time, and we just follow you there.
Yeah. Not to mention, and I don't like bringing this up that much, but apparently he's very popular with girls, and that's what people tell me. And and like him, it's not a case of oh I don't know who I pick, and like most harem protagonists, he's just like I just don't know. I don't know what these people see in me in that regard.
Yeah, I know a few times where that kind of happened. So with you, uh, and it more had to do with people that the members of the group brought around, and it's like, oh, now they like Alex. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't work out for me either. But as all those good moments, he's loyal, he's kind, but he's also kind of dumb at times because he wears glasses throughout the show and he runs into the classroom one day and says, guys, I can't find my glasses. And his glasses are right on top of his head.
I don't know if I could see you doing that, but I could almost see you. It's one of those. It's like maybe I need to see you actually do it.
Yeah, he has some dumb moments, which so do I. And the worst part is the rest of the class is like, all right, guys, let's help him find his glasses. And one person's like, oh, it's going to be a prank. And then 3 hours later, someone's like, dude, your glasses are on your head. And they all start laughing. It's like, wait, did nobody notice? I don't know. I feel like Hidenori, as smart as he is, he also kind of makes the people around him feel a little dumber at times. And I kind of feel like I do that.
I could kind of see it as I said. I definitely see the reluctant leadership part of it a big part for you, but that's just from my memory of us in high school or college.
I was about to say,
Well, no,
I
I remember
remember
you.
nothing about high school to be completely honest at this point.
Yeah, I came and visited you before you even realized who I was. I sat in the back and ate popcorn.
So that's what that smell was. But overall, the reluctant leadership and humor of Hidenori, yet that's still sometimes the stupidity and the I have no idea why these people are flirting with me. Please leave.
All right. So my next one.
Go for it.
All right. So this one I've come to realize as I've gotten a little bit older. I never used to think I had a perfectionist mindset, but as I've gotten a little bit older, it's because I've started to realize that it exists without uh when I didn't think it used to. So I put Ishi Sukasa from Food Wars. He's kind of he's one of like the main antagonists from the series. He's not necessarily a bad guy. In the series, he's like the one of the best cooks in the world, yet he's like a senior at the school. But he comes to realize that the school fails out all but like 10% of its students by the end of the time. And his idea is like, well, that's not fair. These kids can learn to cook just as well as I can. So he comes up with a system that literally teaches them step by step how to like to cook exactly what he's making. The issue is that it removes all creativity out of the kitchen, which is this is a culinary school that's meant for you to develop your own cooking style, and now it's all you learn how I cook. And I can kind of have that mentality of, and I've noticed it with work, and I think I had a few times in college. I think you'll remember when I freaked out that one time at when my teacher changed like everything, and I went from like an A in the class to an F because he posted stuff that wasn't supposed to be posted.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So there's that mindset, and I can kind of get frustrated when there's something I'm really good at, and I'm with people who aren't as good at it. I've noticed it with my work, and it wanting them to be just as good at the level I am and get it right every single time like I do. So there's that aspect of me that I want to find out how to set it so that they get it right every time and do it perfectly and really fast, but they may not know, or they may have an easier way of doing it because there's different ways of doing my job actually. So there's that aspect, and that's very much him. So I'm trying not to push my ideas, which is kind of his big lesson throughout the end of the series.
And you said he's an antagonist? He sounds like a nice guy.
That's the thing. He's kind of he's an antagonist because he pushes his ideas and gets rid of the creativity from the school that, hey, this is how you do it this way, and you'll get it done fast really quickly and learn how to do it, versus, hey, you may fail this time, but you've grown and actually developed your own style and growth, which is something I kind of struggle with. Is like, no, if you do it my way, you can get it done fast. It doesn't matter that the way they wanted to do it was the way they've kind of learned, developed their own style. So I'm working on not being too much like that. There's also another part that's a little bit more minor with him. He's the student council president pretty much for the school, and his VP is constantly piling on her work onto him. So he ends up with like all this paperwork, but all he wants to do is be in the kitchen. There have been days where, despite the fact that most of the time I'm the senior person on my shift, I'm supposed to handle only the background stuff. Like a few weeks ago, I booked more than everybody else over an entire day, despite the fact that I'm supposed to take a step back. So I'm working on that and not getting taken advantage of, but that sometimes does happen to me where I'll just step up and take all the work despite the fact that I'm not supposed to have all of it.
I have noticed there have been times in college where you were like piled up with stuff, and you're like, I have to get this done. I have to get this done. And there are times I'm thinking, is nobody else like doing their part? Is he like it? And I didn't necessarily know the nature of the stuff you were working on, but I was still thinking, it seems like a lot for one person in particular to be doing. Like there were like weeks on end where I'm like, I didn't know you were still alive. I'm just like, if I start to smell something coming from his room, maybe I should do something, but who knows at this point.
Yeah, those senior projects, those were with groups, but I spent so much time camped up there with them trying to get the paperwork and all the research done that we were supposed to get done. So yeah, I can understand that. I disappeared for those, but I'm thinking there's been a handful of smaller projects. Like I can remember a few in high school where thinking back on it, I got taken advantage of. I did all the work. It didn't, and the other person kind of sat there, went on one of the flash game websites while we were in the library or something instead of working with me.
Oh, those take me back. But yeah, I can kind of understand that. You also seem to have a matter of fact way of doing things, and there are times I sometimes want to say, if we try this other way, maybe it'll be better. And 9 times out of 10, you're generally right. But at the same time, I'm also kind of like, let's try something new. Let's do something slightly different this time.
As I said, I'm working on trying to embrace other ideas, let other people tell me what needs to happen or how they've learned. I've done it a lot more since I've become a supervisor at my job. When I was just like a regular person, it's like, okay, do it my way because I can get X number done in an hour versus y'all who are doing like 2 or 3, I can get 15, 20 done in that same time.
Yeah. But it does sound like he learns from this, and you are
Mhm.
learning from this, so that definitely helps. So I can co sign with that.
Yeah, he grows throughout the series, especially after it, kind of the ending arc. You learn that he's grown a good bit.
That's good. Like I said, I can agree with that.
All right, your next one.
All right, I'm proud of myself because I get to talk about a newer anime that I've finished. Yes, and the character from that show, Tetsuhiko Kai from Osamake, rom-com where the childhood friend won't lose.
Okay, I've heard of this one. I haven't seen it, so
It's I'll talk about it a little more in a bit, but basically this guy kind of exists as, I wouldn't necessarily call him the perverted best friend, but he's kind of the best friend of the main character. And there are times where the main character will get flirted with, and like girls will be into him, and he won't know what to do. And his friend and Kai will kind of just be like, you're on your own, buddy. It sucks to suck, but what are you gonna do?" But at the same time, though, whenever his friend does have a problem, Kai is generally there to like work things out. Not to mention, he loves acting like I do. And there's a point in the series that turned him around for me because because him and his friends were getting harassed by some business people, and rather than just simply laugh along and just let it happen, he gets in the person's face and says, "Don't talk about my friends like that. Don't you ever or disrespect my friends like that." And in some cases that can be bad because you're not completely in control of your emotions, but at the same time though, the loyalty of it was not. I because I can kind of be like that. I can kind of jump the gun and do or say something I probably shouldn't, but I do it the best I can for my friends. But I don't know. There's not a lot to him so far, but I still, in the little bits, I can kind of be like, I can kind of see that I'm him.
okay. Yeah, definitely with the stepping up for uh like to people if something happened. I don't think any of us ever got bullied. I don't know about like Nathan or anything like it in the uh communications building if there was something like where Nathan got told off by someone else for coming up with an idea, but I could see it.
Yeah, it doesn't always happen, but at the same time, I'm also just kind of like, hey, you don't mess. I mess with my friends. You don't get to mess with my friends. And there have been times where people like, hey, I appreciate you sticking up for me, but like, maybe you should have thought about what you said, because sometimes I do get like that. I say something or do something, and then I think to myself, that's going to come back to bite me later, isn't it?
Yeah, I could see it. I yeah. As I said, without knowing the character well enough, I'll co-sign. I don't. I I need to watch more slice of life anime just to get a better understanding of some of the characters that you always like to talk about or the
Let me
style of
put
character.
let me put it this way. Would I say this show is necessarily good? Not really, but I find myself enjoying it. I'm not really sure what it is. I think it just has a charm to it. And a theme song that is way better than it has any right to be.
Okay. As I said, I've got a few that I've watched that are slice of life, and I'm hoping to get a few more that I'll watch eventually. I've kind of got 3 or 4 things I'm watching right now, so I'm got a little ways before I need anything new.
Yeah. Yeah. But Tetsuhiko Kai, he kind of a jerk at times, but will stand up for his friends no matter the consequences, and even if it comes back to bite him.
Okay. Yeah, as I said, I think that works well for you.
Okay?
All right. So one more and then honorable mentions each, right?
That would be correct.
All right. Just wanted to make sure I was counting right. So this is one I've kind of mentioned before, and there's only one real aspect of his personality that I really embrace, and that's his name is Wakana Gojo from My Dress Up Darling. This is one of the few slice of life kind of anime that I've watched all the way through. The part of me that that I really saw in him is the kind of hiding part of yourself. When it comes to anime and stuff, I had some friends who liked it in uh, high school, but they're they weren't that much. Here, I'm a lot less. I've hidden a lot less. Like the fact that I still like Pokemon and stuff in my daily life, it doesn't come out very often. But here, I say it. So which throughout the series, actually pretty much at the start, when he finds the female lead and all that, and he starts coming out of his shell, revealing that he knows how to do all this stuff like sewing and doing, in this case, makeup, but it's from when he was designing the dolls that are famous in Japan, that sort of thing. But he kind of hid that part of himself and went away because everybody found it weird. It's like, so I kind of did the same thing. I hid part of myself away, but I've slowly tried to embrace that part of myself. It's like, okay, it's my choice. I like this still. It doesn't matter that someone else doesn't like it.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Because there were times when we met each other kind of early on, I kind of thought to myself, he's friends with Jabari, and we both kind of like nerdy stuff. I wonder if anime is kind of his thing. And there were times in high school where I was like, I'm not going to talk about this that much just because it doesn't matter. At the same time, though, like once you start opening up about it, people are like, oh no, they don't care. They don't really care.
Yeah. And if you meet someone who doesn't, it kind of, that's where you close off, is when you meet that first person who's like, oh, haha, you like so and so. Like I can remember my hands, I don't know, I fell against like the wall like that, kind of like that, and the person's like, you're making Naruto symbols. Like I think I had tripped when we were doing like shuttle run or something, and that's how I felt. And they're so I and I
Did you
did
do?
like Naruto, but I just, so I
Did you
kind of
do it
hit
on
it.
purpose? What was the, or did you just?
No, just my hands kind of fell forward, and two of my fingers wrapped underneath, but it just happened that way. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, and to be fair, there are like there are family members I have who have no idea I do this, who have no idea that we're dangerously close to 400 subscribers, and maybe we can get there with some help, guys. Seriously. But at the same time, though, there are members of my family who have no idea I do this. One, because I can't really explain anime that much, and two, because I sometimes I say some stuff that make them go, "Oh, that's not our family member. That's not him."
I can see that. I've kind of got the same way. I mean, I'm not that close with very many. I'm close with my parents, and that's about it. Others, they wouldn't understand, or I don't know them well enough to really talk with them about this sort of thing. So I just don't know.
Yeah, and my mom will, and I love my mom. Like, no matter the stuff I say, I love my mother more than just about anybody on the world. But there are times where she'll say, "Well, why don't you get this person, this family member on, this family member on?" I'm just like, I don't like talking about this sort of thing with that many other people besides Richard, Toons and Goons, Poke Furlax, and maybe some other people. But we'll talk about them another day.
Yeah, we've got some people who want to be special guests, and some special guests lined up for future videos and
Yeah, but like you
podcasts.
said, it's just kind of hard to talk with this stuff about certain people. There are people who have told us, "Hey, I've never come across a podcast like this. Nobody really talks about it like you guys do." And that's not a good or bad thing. I'm just noticing, wow, people don't talk about this stuff that often. It's kind of sad. I want more people to experience and talk about anime in a safe place. I want that. I genuinely do.
Yeah, it's important to find, if you like it, embrace it. Don't, you can, if you have to or want to keep it hidden to do stuff, find a place that you can talk about it. Find people. I mean, I got back into Pokemon because of Alex. I mean, I hadn't played in, God, probably 4 or 5 years, and I think right when we first kind of met, I ended up ordering a DS and Heart Gold because I didn't have a DS with me at the time, and that was back when Heart Gold was still like, I could get it for like $30 online instead of like 100 and something.
Yeah, and you also binge watched X and Y for about 40 or 50 episodes, and that was another moment where I thought, "Oh, he's not alive, is he?" Oh no, he moved. Okay, we're good.
Yep, just so I could catch up to watch it with him, and then we watched that entire series and the start of Sun and Moon together. And then eventually I disappeared for college work and stuff, and I didn't like Sun and Moon anyway, so it was fine.
It has its moments, but yeah, I also remember you saying, hey, you said his name was Wakana Gojo.
Mhm.
I also remember you saying he'd be a good friend to have, or somebody you'd want to be friends with, and he does seem like somebody who, once again, I think we could be cool with him.
Yeah, I think the way I described him is that he would be able to be himself and embrace what he loves. It's still, and whether we know about it, we wouldn't make that much fun of him. We might joke with him a little bit about it, but it wouldn't be like anything actually mean.
Yeah,
And
and I
he would realize that, I think.
yeah, and I would also give him some dirt on everybody else, and then eventually you guys would jump on me. But yeah, I can definitely go. I can go sign. And as somebody who kind of brought it out of you, I guess you're welcome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, but one of the few things I'll do nice for you. But overall, my next character,
Go right ahead.
all right, for the most part, I feel like we've been kind of jokey and like lighthearted about this. I'm sorry, but I feel like I have to bring that down just a tad.
Okay.
Tomoko Kuroki from Watamote.
Okay.
Honestly, I've talked about this girl before, but like her anxiety is really bad, and there are times I kind of feel like I don't really want to talk to these people because, like, what if I say something really dumb, especially towards the earlier parts of college? There are just moments where I just didn't really. I thought to myself, I like all of this stuff, and I'm kind of odd. So, like, what happens if I say something and other people don't like it? She's had problems with anxiety, just depression, and this is where I get kind of real. I've kind of struggled with that throughout my life. Anxiety, depression, and even when I was younger, sadly, some suicidal thoughts, which I've gotten over for, I feel like for the most part, I've really gotten over. And I think Tomoko's kind of representation of, hey, my life is not where I want it to be, but I'm getting better. I'm trying my best. Not to mention, she kind of has the other side of, people kind of suck, and maybe I don't want to be friends with them in the first place. And there are times where, like I said, there are times I'm like, man, I want to try and connect with this person. But there are other times where I'm like, if they disappear tomorrow, I don't want anything bad to happen to them, but I just don't want to deal with them in that regard.
I can understand that. Yeah, I've gone through time periods. I don't know if I've ever been actually suicidal. I've definitely had really bad bouts with anxiety myself. I know in end of middle school, beginning of high school, I had a really bad time. A few times here and there in college, never really any bad, but my worst one recently was when I was selling insurance after I had been laid off, got my insurance license, and oh my god, it was so stressful, so much. It pushed me to where I couldn't do anything else. I mean, I think it was during one of those times that we stopped filming for a few weeks, so there wasn't even this connection to do something fun. I was just kind of tense all the time. It was not good.
Yeah. But I guess to make it somewhat a little more lighthearted, there are times where she like says to herself, "Oh my God, I talked to a person successfully today. I'm gonna go home and have ice cream to celebrate." And admittedly, I do give myself those small victories, and in a sense, you kind of need them at times. But she's trying her best. She's still pretty cynical in the fact of sometimes she just hates being around people, and I love a lot of people, but there are also people I'm like, no, that's okay. I don't need to be here, and she's just trying her best. I don't know, and like I said, I feel like I would try my best to be friends with her, even if it be a tad difficult.
Yeah, I think we'd both try to be nice to her, and I don't know if I would actually be friends with her, but I would definitely try to be nice. I wouldn't. Uh, I don't know. I haven't seen the anime more than like I think the first episode or two, so it's one of those. Definitely wouldn't bully her or anything. I've never been one who wants to bully anybody. I've had a few bullies in myself, so I know what it's like.
And just like the character I talked about beforehand, I would be getting in their way, and you'd be like, no, dude, just let them go. And I'm like, you're lucky he's here. You're lucky he's here.
All right. So honorable mentions time.
Let's do it.
All right. So my first honorable mention. This is one that I don't know. I had to put myself kind of in their situation instead of to kind of and realize, yeah, that's probably how I'd end up affecting it. So this one is Kazuya Soma from God, what's the name of that
I,
anime?
I I legitimately wouldn't know.
It, it's something about how the reluctant hero saves the kingdom or something along those lines. I can't remember. I'll look up it.
Genjitsu Shugi Yusha no. Oh, I'm not reading all of this.
There's an actual English name, but uh, pretty much I thought about it, it's like if I was isekai into another world, I and asked to save the kingdom or save the world, be like, yeah, I don't have the physical powers or the mentality. I don't think to unfortunately become that hero
I don't
physically.
mean to cut you off, but it's called How a Realist His Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom.
Yeah, I knew it was something along those lines. I knew rebuild the kingdom. I couldn't remember the first part, but I would probably like, okay, well let's build infrastructure and make the kingdom work in it of itself rather than have me out on the front lines. I'll teach you how to do it yourself so you can fight at your highest level. Again, this one's more of where my mindset is. I'm not a physical fighter. I really am not. I'm not built for it. I probably could eventually get there, but I've just never been one to consistently stay at the gym or anything to get that strength. So I really don't know with that. But this seemed like my mind's like, okay, well, let's build roads. Okay, well, we need a port city now, and let's build up the port city and build up a fleet of trading ships. And okay, that's you're the general of the army. You're the general or the admiral of the navy. Train your troops how you see fit. If you have an issue, let me know, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, between all of us, you definitely seem more like a strategist or like a more complex thinker rather than just, all right, guys, just go in, charge.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I selected him. It's like, okay, it's not necessarily. I don't see myself as the front line. I'm the only hope you have as the physical fighter with the magic powers and the chosen one aspect. I'm the guy who makes the decision to go and helps and lead you from somewhere. Just I know what to do to make sure we win and get to that point in my
Yeah,
mind.
which is why I feel like between you and me, whenever we're like, even though it's nothing serious, like when we're playing a game or something, and all of us are playing, you and I are kind of the person who's like, okay, you go this way, you try and make that sort of thing, and it's you coming up with the stuff, and then me being like, yeah, guys, do that, listen to me.
Yeah, I can kind of see it. I've always liked the strategy games about building up resources and uh stuff and just making the kingdom prosperous. I do have I always have leaned towards. I mean, I joke about the Pokemon War and all that, so I always end up seemingly going for a domination victory or a war victory, whichever whatever the game has.
I think you would like Pokemon Conquest.
Probably, it sounds something that I would probably like.
Yeah, but I could agree with that. I didn't even know the show, and based on the way you described it, for a second, I didn't even know you knew what this show was because you didn't even know the title. But
It's
it
been it came out like the start of the year, so that's where I was when I watched it. And it's been since it came out that I haven't watched anymore.
yeah, but I can definitely understand that. That it does seem like you, but like I said, I don't know the character that well.
All right, your first honorable mention.
Natsume from Beelzebub.
Okay.
I just feel like in terms Natsume's like I've talked before, he's not really much of a fighter. He's more of just a practical jokester. Like if somebody trips and falls when they're trying something, he'll genuinely just laugh it off like it's nothing. At the same time, though, he is somebody who's like, oh, you need help with your training? Well, how about you try this different method or this different method, while still being kind of a jokester about it. At the same time, though, he's somebody you don't want to mess with because there have been times where he's knocked strong people out with basically one hit. Not that I generally do that, but just in the sense of sometimes people are like, he's a jokester, but don't, please don't mess with that guy. Not to mention he is loyal, and there are times where people will think to themselves, "Is he a bad person?" And I'm just like, "No, no, not really."
If I knew exactly which character it is, I think I have a general idea of which one it is. It's been so long since like I think the last time I watched anything Beelzebub was with you, so it's been that long.
Good lord.
It's on my list, but I keep putting it off because I keep finding something. Ooh, that sounds good as I'm scrolling through and selecting stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just kind of figure it as because he's generally just making jokes and because I've kind of been a couple of people tell me that every now and then I say something sarcastic or witty without actually doing a whole lot, and I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong.
I can see that you do make witty remarks, especially when one of us always said something stupid or something obvious. It was like, Who's gonna respond first? Okay, Alex.
And then people look at me. I'm just like, no, no. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be nice today. Somebody else take this.
Yeah, but yeah, and you did give a lot of advice and make recommendations for different things that when we wanted to do stuff, and yeah, so I can see it.
Yeah, but also just a case of don't mess with this dude because I admit sometimes when people mess with me, I'm like, oh, so you've chosen death. Let's see how this works out.
Which I can't imagine because you're 6'3" and you're a pretty big dude. It's like, okay, God.
Yeah, yeah. Now you now see why I didn't want to major in mass media because some of those people were crazy, except Levi, and Evan, and Peter. That's kind of it.
And they were all crazy in other aspects that you were at least willing to accept.
Oh, if they hear this, yeah, I'm not defending that. No, you're right. They'd agree with it too.
I think I met Levi once or twice when we went to like the mass media. Was he part of the mass media club that Nathan ran for a part?
I guess I don't know. College is a giant blur for me right now. I thought about saying other stuff about nice people in college, but now I'm legitimately blanking out on it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I remember some classes. Yeah, if you ask me to make any of the finance statements or anything, it's like, oh God, give me a textbook. I'll have to look it up again.
Yeah, but basically Natsume, somebody you don't want to mess with, but there's a cheeky person to hang out with.
Okay, as I said, I can understand that, and I will 100% agree to that.
Alrighty?
All right, so my next honorable mention, I've listed two names mainly because the English dub did change his name. So it's Daisuke Shima / Mark Venture from Space Battleship Yamato and or Star Blazers, depending on which version you've watched or seen. I thought about Derek Wildstar, but who's the main character from the English dub, but he's very much more aggressive, and I don't have that personality to be overly aggressive. I have my moments, which Mark has, where he's when something goes seriously wrong, he does get upset. Like I know there's at least one time when the first season they have 1 year to get back and save the Earth, and something happens, and he's stressing out because his little brother's on Earth. So when I have those kind of deadlines, I can stress out and get a little snippy with people when it's like I have to get this done, or we have to get this done, and no one else really seems to be wanting to work at the same pace as I am. But then I also am usually the more level-headed, calm. I make a sound decision and or make sound recommendations. They may not be accepted, but I try to accept what they tell me. Is like, okay, this is what's happening, so I kind of try to accept it.
Yeah,
That's
I can definitely understand that. Even though I have noticed every now and then you have a moment where you do get snippy, and I'm like, I'm going to stay out of the way. I wonder if everybody else will pick up on this, and they'll be like, No. I'm like, all right, y'all are on your own.
as I said, it's not my main part of my personality, but when I'm more stressed is when it comes out, which is very much similar to him. It's but then when I try to be the more level-headed, hey, this is what needs to happen whenever I am just talking with other people and coming up with ideas, and it's not as important. I'm not stressed. So where someone else might be, as I said, like a Derek Wildstar, where he is more aggressive in the choices.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. You do tend to be a lot more level headed, especially when the situation calls for it.
All right, your next one.
All right, we talked about Pokemon a little bit, so I wanted to mention this character. And I talk about her a lot, but at the same time, I've never really divulged why she really makes me feel this way. And that's May.
Okay.
Honestly, May is just somebody who, for the longest time, just did not really know what she wanted. And once again, we've talked about before, we can kind of relate to that in some aspects. But at the same time, deep down, she's very kind and will help people for the most part. And will help people for the most part. She generally I'm gonna be honest. She has a tendency to freak out a bit, which sometimes I do freak out when stuff like this happens. And she also loves to eat, which is like, yeah, that's me.
Okay. Do you have anything like to do with her contests or anything like what she finally decides her future and
I
goals?
guess it's in a case of once she finally figures it out, she's very much once she finds something she loves, she puts her whole heart into it. And even when she fails, she's like, "Oh well, I can learn from this later." Plus, do you remember the little jokes that she did whenever she'd be like, "Folks, it's time for May's expeditions" or something like that?
Yeah.
I always figured that's our jokes we make whenever we're like, "Oh well, maybe the characters didn't want to come back for another season because the pay was bad." We'd say that about the characters, not the voice actors or the staff themselves.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's true. They just kind of walked off set at the end and they put film together to end it.
Yeah, basically that. But and the thing is, to me, she never feels perfect, and that's kind of what I like. I feel like a lot of because we kind of talked about this before with Choji from Naruto. At the end of the day, even with all his development, he still feels like Choji, and I feel like
Hmm.
no matter how much I grow, I'm always gonna be hopefully the same person.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good thing. No one wants to go through the trauma that would completely change who they are, but uh, yeah, remain the same, I can see that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That being said, I also said she's an honorable mention because like there are some key differences. I don't care about romance that much, being one of them. The people of Petalburg City terrify me, even though she's just like, oh no, they're just nice people. I'm like, no, they're clearly insane. They're obsessed with you, and they're obsessed with you, Norman, and everyone else. Just that sort of thing.
so wait, your entire city's obsessed with you?
No, I just rewatched that episode. I feel like we have to rewatch certain episodes of Pokemon together because they are insane. It's bizarre.
Especially the first kind of three series, the original, the Johto, and the Hoenn are all kind of out there when it comes to ideas. They kind of started settling down in the Diamond Pearl era, where it seemed like more focus was changed.
Yeah, and heck, I even kind of have a point for not anime May but game May because people hear me talk about Brennan a lot, and people just kind of roll their eyes at it.
Okay, yeah, my best friend Brendan.
They talk about each other so much in Masters. It's kind of crazy.
I just you made me think of I think it's called Rubier, the animated
Oh,
series.
yeah. Yeah.
So okay, that kind of there you go. That's Alex's personality for May.
Just insane. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, she never felt perfect, and I never felt like she was not May. I always felt like, no, this seems like something she would be doing. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me see. So I don't know. This one is a little weird, and I'm trying to figure out how best to explain it. So I'm currently working on a new kind of stage in my life. I'm working towards my pilot's license. I actually went out and was doing some flying earlier today. Um, so this is kind of a new part of me that I really want to go on adventures and stuff. I know as an if I do pursue this all the way to airline pilot, you don't necessarily go on adventures and stuff. You're just flying a big bus pretty much, there's there's still a lot to learn and you go see the world and stuff. So I kind of embraced Ash with the from Pokemon, from the whole adventuring and stuff. I also really like animals, which is pretty much what Pokemon are. This one was a little bit more abstract. It's my sense of adventure and that's starting to develop as I get older and just go out. But I also feel like kind of to go with the whole revealing myself and finding and accepting parts that may be a little childish, but I like and enjoy, like enjoying Pokemon. Ash has matured, whether or not we realize it. When we compare him to the more aggressive, he more how to put it, he was less secure of himself. I feel like in some of the earlier series where he would make jokes and make fun of other people for not liking certain things. Now he's embraced it to the point where he's like, I want you to like Pokemon, but I'm not going to force you to, is kind of how it's changed.
Which is weird because it seems like everybody likes Pokemon in that universe. So I'm not sure. I understand the message and it's good, but at the same time, I'm like, why would somebody live here and not like Pokemon? What's the deal?
Yeah, and as I said, I think back to uh the Deoxys movie where Ash is very pushy about the one guy. You have to like Pokemon, but then there've been episodes since then that have been like, I would love for you to like Pokemon, but let me talk and let me see why you don't, and see if I can help you overcome if it's fear and stuff. So
Do
as I
you
said, he
mean the
has
kid? Do you mean the kid who looks like Bakura?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about those movies again at some point.
Maybe now would be a good time since we're not, well, we'll talk about that in another video.
Yeah. But yeah,
Um
I guess I can kind of see it. I figured you'd say Brock because you like to cook, you take care of people, and like your goals kind of change throughout the series. And you also kind of have a similar dry sense of humor as Brock. So I would have thought you would have said Brock or maybe even Clement.
there's some connection there, but I don't know. Brock has always been the like gold standard for traveling companions, and I just didn't feel that there's myself now. Maybe if you see it more in me than I do, maybe it's true. I don't know. Brock's one of those I didn't want to compare myself too much to because there's so much that he goes through, and his
You wanted to lower the bar. I understand that.
yeah.
Maybe if we ever do the reverse of this, characters who we feel like represent the other person, maybe we'll talk more about that another point. But I don't know.
That would take a while to develop that video. I
Oh,
think
I have a couple of characters in mind, but yeah,
I've got one or two, but I would need time to think about it and make sure it's like okay.
yeah. Well, because we want to end this podcast with this podcast still being a thing.
Yeah, that is very true. It would suck to like destroy a friendship over like one misstatement or something.
Yeah, I think of you as Tristan from Yu-Gi-Oh. Why? He's a robot monkey, and you like robots. No, I see it.
Well, and he's pretty much Joey's personality, but I don't duel.
That is fair, but I can understand Ash. I'm trying to give you a little more credit for once, but if you don't want to accept it, I guess that's fine.
As I said, it's my view of myself. I you may have a different view of me in total and or at the end as well. So who knows?
Alrighty.
All right, your final honorable mention.
Okay, full disclosure, I thought about saying Smoker for One Piece,
Okay,
but in my opinion, it felt like a little bit longer since I've seen One Piece, so I didn't want to fully commit to that. So I decided to go with Takina Inoue from Lycoris Recoil.
I don't know that one.
Okay, I've talked about the show a couple of times before, but Takina's kind of reserved and she ends up going rogue on a mission, saving some people, and she ends up getting punished. The thing is, she ends up getting sent to, I guess, their subdivision of Lycoris, which is where she meets Chisato, her new best friend, basically. The reason I say her is kind of because there are times I'm kind of closed off and kind of quiet towards people, but if you get me around the right person, I can be goofy. Like there's a scene where they go to the aquarium together, and she's being very reserved, and then in front of everybody, she just starts acting like a fish. It's funnier than I'm giving it credit for.
I could see that. Now I want to take you to the aquarium just to see what you would do.
We'll go. Maybe we'll do that another day. But ultimately, she's also very much a case of like she loves interacting with like animals and kids, and she doesn't always say it, but she does learn from the people around her. And she's also very much a if you mess with my friends, you have to deal with me. So what do you want to take that chance? And most people just say no, no, I'm good, ma'am.
Yeah, I've noticed like a lot of yours deal with your friendships and it's being like I can make fun of you, but I'm still gonna like if someone else starts causing issues, then they have an issue with me now.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. I just she's a lot funnier than like I recommend the show in some cases, and there are also times where she's the last person to realize where she's messed up with something. Not with something major, but there was an episode where she was making a new dessert to help the cafe she was working at. And the new dessert she made was really popular with people, so she thought she did a good job. But it turns out the dessert she made just looked like a literal pile of crap. And there are
Okay.
times when I make mistakes like that, and I'm like, we really don't have to talk. Please don't make me feel better. Let's just not talk about this anymore.
I can see that as well. Yeah, it's this character subs definitely has aspects of you that I've seen and stuff. I remember trying to help. I think was it a project? I know there was something in college that got messed up, and you're like, let's just move on. I think it was when we were just filming the anime summit or something. We did some. There was something. It's like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's weird but I feel like you and I are both kind of the main characters, and I feel like you're more Takina than I am. But at the same time, I see parts of Takina in myself.
I can kind of see it. As I said, I would need to see the anime to know for sure, but I've got, as I said, it's really weird doing this whole podcast, and we've only watched a handful of the same animes.
Yeah, well, to me, sometimes I like surprising you and be like, "Oh, I'm going to talk about this anime where the childhood friend won't lose," only to realize, oh, they're all the childhood friend. Oh,
Oh, okay, that's actually kind of interesting. I may
it's
need to
so
give that one a shot.
it's so frustrating. But yeah, I don't know. Takina, I've talked about that. I wanted to talk about her because I've never talked about her before.
Okay. All right. So my final one for this list is Ijiro Kirishima from My Hero Academia. I I really actually don't view myself as like a main character. I view myself as like a first background character or first supporting character. I guess supporting character is probably the right term for this.
You said Kirishima?
Yeah, he's the red-haired spiky dude who hangs out with Bakugo a lot.
Oh, this dude.
Yeah. Um, but just his loyalty and his mindset of especially when you learn through the I forgot what the name of the organization is. There's a specific arc that he becomes a really important character. Uh, and the fact that there are his whole mindset is that he doesn't want to back down. There was a time in his past where he saw people he knew not necessarily attacked, but kind of threatened by a bad guy, and he feels that he could have done something. It's like I kind of feel that I have that mindset. It's like I don't want to back down when someone else is someone, especially someone I care about or know is hurt or threatened in some way. It's like so I really want that aspect. I want to grow strong enough to be able to stand there and protect everybody. I don't know if I'm there. I know there was one time where I gave more than myself than I probably should have for someone. This was back in like high school. It ended fine, but it was just like, oh, I didn't want to back down for this person, so I kept pushing for someone else. So it's that kind of aspect and mindset from him that it's like, okay, I can kind of see myself in that.
Yeah, I can understand that to an extent. Not to mention, you mentioned he's friends with Bakugo. Oh, correct?
Yeah, he's kind of the one that can. He's the one that can call out to Bakugo when no one else can, and Bakugo will actually listen.
Yeah, there are times where other people will talk to me, and I'm like, I'm not really picking up on what you're vibing with. And then you'll explain, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I can kind of understand that now. It kind of depends on what Richard's doing, because, like I said, he's the smart one between the two of us.
I don't know how much of that is true. I think we're equally smart. It just depends on the topic.
I feel like you could say the same for a lot of things, but for a lot of people in that regard. But I don't know. I'm trying to give you some points here.
I know, but there's definitely some times that uh it's like, oh, I have no clue. Alex, what do you think?
Uh,
Okay, we'll go with this option then.
we'll go with Plan G. We'll go with Plan C.
But there's only plan A and B. We're going with plan C.
As long as we don't get to Plan L. Plan L, I have to fight that flamingo again.
Yeah, that didn't work out for you now, did it?
No, no, it did not. But in all honesty, I can definitely see what you're coming from. Even with once again a character from a show I have not seen, and in some I've kind of said before, at the moment I don't have a whole lot of interest in.
Yeah, and I can understand that. As I said, I'm never going to push you to see it. If you ever do decide, it's like great, but that's again up to you.
Are there My Hero characters who haven't seen the show yet?
Probably they it would not surprise me. There's definitely issues with some of the background characters or side characters.
I feel like the Frog Girl has not seen any of the show yet.
Uh no, I think she probably has. It's probably more of like the class 1B students that we see every few episodes.
Yeah, well, Toga's writing half the script and she's very stressed, so
No wonder she came for my blood.
yeah, but overall, Kirishima, yeah, I can see
Okay.
it.
All right. So your final one?
Okay, if y'all know me, this should not be a surprise, but Gintoki Sakata from Gintama.
Okay.
Ultimately, this guy kind of has a way of basically annoying the people around him. And I kind of feel that way sometimes. I kind of feel like some of the more ludicrous things I say can sometimes get under people's skin. But then when they think about it, it's kind of like, oh, that's what he meant by that. That kind of makes sense in a way. Not to mention, he loves anime and sweets. And also he likes breaking the fourth wall. And I'd like to think that if we ever had an actual show, I'd be the one doing that all the time.
I just acknowledge it like in one episode. It's like, I can see you breaking the fourth wall like every episode, right?
And I
And
would
then
just
just turn away.
I just would just move on from it. But not to mention, in all seriousness, his backstory is really sad. He grew up basically as an orphan and had to basically fight in a war as a child, and he had to kill his own master, and it messed with him. And as I've said before, like there are times where you keep that stuff kind of bottled up and you don't talk about it all that much. And even if he never fully recovers from it, he's finding ways of getting better about it. And his philosophy that I'll always take from me is I don't care what happens to the rest of the world, the planet, the country, none of that matters to me. All that really matters is just doing what I do and hanging with my friends and drinking strawberry milk.
I used to love strawberry milk.
Oddly enough, it doesn't taste like strawberry or milk when you start to think about it.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah, but I don't know. Oh, it. I'm going to try and say this in the nicest way possible, but similar to Hidenori, what I talked about, he's also somebody who's very much like, hey, look, I'm trying to put this in a way that doesn't get me canceled. It's also in the sense of he sees women kind of in the sense of no matter where you come from, you should still be kind to people. Well, and he's kind of a similar sense of if a woman is a villain, he's still gonna stop him. He's not gonna hesitate, be like, "Oh no, I can't stop you because who knows?" I'm like, no, if I have to stop you, I'm going to stop you, and that's kind of my philosophy. And like other characters, I've said sometimes it comes back to bite me in the butt.
I can understand that. So, and I know just enough about Gintoki to I can kind of see it. Yeah, the silliness that seems to be like a large part of your personality when you try to introduce people and hang out with people but there is a part of you that's like if something happens, it's like I've seen you get serious before, so I can see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I could have said a lot of other Gintama characters. Heck, as a joke, I thought about saying Elizabeth, the giant duck, but I wouldn't have a whole lot to say in that regard.
Well, she's the most expressive character in the entire series. There's so much emotion that comes from her.
I don't want to talk about the truth they reveal about Elizabeth because like I said, it's weird even for Gintama standards. Like even I haven't fully processed it yet.
Again, it's another one that I want to go back and watch all the episodes myself. I've seen enough to know about the characters and kind of understand them, but there's a lot I don't know because I've only seen like bits and pieces of the series.
Also, he's scared of the dentist, and I don't like going to the dentist either.
Well, yeah, at least, well, yeah, I can understand that. I don't mind going to this, but I've been going since I was like 4, so
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like in some senses, Gintoki, when we do that game of, oh, who are we in the show? That's why I said Gintoki for me, because I just feel like he best represents me through the sad moments and the happy moments and the just utterly bizarre moments when he randomly starts trying to do Kamehamehas and fails.
Unless you're playing the game, in which case, like 1 in 4 actually shoot off.
Something like that.
Okay, but I think that about wraps this episode up.
Good lord, this episode, I don't know how to feel about this episode. We got a little too real at times. I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, but I don't know. As I said, I think we both have proven that getting help when you need it has helped. When we talked about the more serious issues we've gone through, so I think that's an important lesson everybody needs to learn, is that you don't need to do everything on your own.
Yeah, and a lot of the characters I have kind of learned that, so I don't know. Hopefully this episode wasn't as dark as we made it out to be, and hopefully the next several episodes we can go back to seemingly hating each other, because that's what people seem to like.
Well, there's some interesting stuff probably coming up that we'll need to talk about, so we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah, and y'all aren't gonna like what I have to say about that, because, well, you'll just be on the lookout for it. But anyways, are we ready to close out?
I believe so.
Alright, ladies, gentlemen, and others, what anime characters do you feel represent you guys the best? It doesn't have to be anything super serious or, like, complicated. It could just be somebody who you feel like we said, best represents you. Good guy, bad guy. If you're a boy, pick a girl. If you're a girl, pick a boy. Like, that sort of thing. I tried to go a little different with some of these.
Yeah, I don't know. I needed. I probably could have done a bit more. There's so many anime characters. So if you have ideas for us as well, if we do decide to do one where we talk about what we see in the other person, let us know if there's someone you think of about that as well.
Oh, I am terrified for that video. Oh, not because of the anger, just because of the confusion in some aspects.
Wait, who is that?
Yeah. I already have like 3 or 4 in mind, but maybe we'll do that video another day.
Yeah, I needed more time to prepare that one, because I definitely want to think harder on that one.
Yeah. But overall, just let us know. Like, comment, subscribe, and just all that other nonsense. And we will see you guys next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.